Hello and welcome. So, I just want to let's start with this. This is probably a good spot to start with. Trovants are stones that seem to grow, move, and reproduce. They look like this. So that's cool. I thought that was interesting. Before I close the tab forever and don't in any way reference it, I thought I'd just bring it up. It's kind of, to me, my initial thought is this is like an atom in terms of the things I've been talking about. And it's forming by it's basically a polygonal boundary that has some inlet that a current's flowing in, pardon. And the current is filling within this hard, dense shell so that it grows and in a concretion kind of way fills in the cracks as it grows. It's pretty much what happened with the Earth expansion process is it grew and then it filled in the cracks with probably a concretion as a good equivalent. So there's that. Maybe let's check out some more images there's those. It's like this. That's crazy. Crazy. How cool. So cool. All these little bumps on it too. Even the way the moss is growing. It makes me think of some kind of star on in a galaxy, and then some kind of black hole. I don't know if that's the same thing and just one's more aged or if it's actually moss. Pardon me if I'm mistaken on what I just said. Okay, let's move on because I got a lot to talk about. I just want to be real quickly. Let's go to YouTube. Myron Cook, he just had a episode. I watched this twice. Oh my god. He was mentioning that this granite has metamorphosed something in it. So there's a region that has a batholith of granite, or batholith, a very large igneous intrusion extending deep in the Earth's crust, and it tends to appear uniform in color, but be more complex than that. But in appearance, be more like a one system. And then have a heat metamorphosed region, so some region around it that's just heated. Almost like it's a star, and the radiation around it causes, when it was hot at least initially, while the region was shaping, it emerged as a particle of molten mantle base that was basically eddied around and focused currents on that layered it and took out certain materials, brought in certain materials, and made it what it is. So there's that going on. And then there's large regions of Wyoming, let's see, maps. Bighorn Forest. Hopefully that's do. That'll do. Okay. I tried to find like a good like technical paper that showed the rock types here. I couldn't find it. And I believe that from what I understand, like generally speaking, this region is highly metamorphic rock, and this region, I believe I might be cheating, like to put it where I want it to be, but generally, like this region, I'm thinking like this region or the darker, like here especially, maybe down to like here. Like just based on the rock color, where this region maybe is more metamorphic. I know this generally is the separation. I just would like to see a specific map. But up here is generally granite, predominantly granite, whereas down here predominantly metamorphic. So there's this kind of thing going on where there are two types, and it's almost like a dense, like neutral particle, and then like a more subtle, because it's basically a metamorphic rock, so something where heat flowed and just like basically, let's go to a good example. He has this rock, like this is this rock here. Pardon me, sir. I love your videos, big fan. Seriously. Seriously. Oh my god. I would like to know if this is the great. I don't think this is the great unconformity. It's definitely topping. I think he said it's way above, actually. Okay. But this is a metamorphic rock here with like particles, large particles within it, that it's pretty much like exemplifies what's going on in a good way, in like a cross scales kind of way. I think this one even is composed of just like a huge spectrum of particles, which is just very, I would like to know more about this place in terms of technical details, and like be able to understand it with relationship to how I see things. Oh my god. Also, I just saw this earthquake, Texas, because of fracking, it sounds like. I'm wondering what, like... Anyway. So then I wrote down, I thought this was interesting. He pointed out, I believe it's here, these things that are apparently where worms eat, but I really feel like because they're perpendicular, they're like always, like they're really not ever sideways. Like these are, yeah, it has to be a physical process through layers of channeling, which is like an eddy, like a current that just goes like through a little tiny, just like channel, and then it widens the channel to a degree, but then like it's the overall region is having that happen, so that it spaces it out in a way, like something of that nature. I thought that was something like that was going on with this. I just thought I'd mention it here because it's in my notes. I'm gonna get to Baja BC. Thanks, Nick. Oh my God. Pardon me for calling him Nick. Calling you Nick. When maybe Dr. Zentner, I'm not sure. Mr. Zentner. Okay, pardon me. That's right. He also mentioned the Canadian Shield was very flat and near sea level when all this was going on. So like this region. Okay, I never mentioned. Before I move on, let me go back to this. Here, interestingly, in the past, unrelated to anything about the granite metamorphic rock, I arrived at the conclusion. Fuck. Okay. So be it. So be it. It is what it is. I. So here's Yellowstone-ish. And I believe it generally energetically, like, overlaid this region through, like, a connection point channel across the separator region in a way where it physically had, like, a terminal here that it overlaid the terminal, like putting a thingamajig on a battery, cable on a battery. Sorry, I don't know what the connector is. Cable connector on a car battery, like putting it on it to like connect to like draw the energetic conduit to allow for exchange to occur. So like interestingly it connected where the granite is, which is kind of like where the particle is. So like that maybe there's a terminal and then like more of like a region for current to flow over here going on. Also, that's very interesting shape right there. I don't know. Okay. Also, this is in the hand here, the hand of God, pillars of creation, with the palm here, or the thumb here, and fingers here. One of the fingers with the Yellowstone there. The wrist back here. It's almost like a gauntlet. Okay. Let's see. Oh, yeah, he pointed out that he was talking about it, like in this section. He was saying this rock is 550 million years old. This rock is 2.7 million years old. And then he basically said that assuming this rate of deposition per year, we are missing 160 miles or something of that nature of layer between here and here, which really doesn't make any sense unless it's just like eroded away. And then this like dense layer like allows for the erosion to occur. But like if the Earth expanded rapidly and deposited layers, then it's more, and like the time frame is much more in the thousands of years, then it's like possible for there to just not even need to be this step of erosion there. I'm not sure. There probably was some degree of erosion going on, but I'm not sure. Like it almost like strongly favors a more simple interpretation that they're just simply the dating is invalid. Like that almost the simplest interpretation is that the method of dating is invalid. If we see 2.7 billion years and then 5.5 or 0.5 billion years, so 2 billion years between these rocks, and there's nothing between them. We're just gonna say it all just eroded until finally something could be deposited. That's bold. That's bold. That's bold. That's just how we have to interpret it with plate tectonics. Not to critique what Myron Cook is talking about, because that's not what I'm talking about. I mean, it is, but he's really presenting our, like, agreed upon viewpoint. Of the matter with how that was formed. Based on the geological consensus, this was formed this way. So I thought that was interesting that there's just, like, these huge gaps that are they're just like such a large span of time to just like spontaneously have a ridiculous quantity of deposition. Like there was nothing going on, nothing going on, nothing going on. Deposition. It seems more likely that like a current came and just brought some stuff and deposited it in a way where like the time scale just is not valid. Pretty much. Like it's something more of like a 30,000 years hanging out down here, and then like 10,000 years up here, or like 6,000. I don't know. Something of that nature, like significantly shorter. Also, I wrote down that this means, now that I think about it, that it's probably likely that the Great Unconformity is a good reference point for where to find like a truly pre-flood society, because this is post-flood, post when the Earth started to expand. The expansion of the Earth process, which was the flood, caused the flood. The global flood was caused by the expansion of the Earth, which was caused by a vortex weapon attack on ancient Dwarka, which punctured the mantle, brought space in, displaced mantle out, which flowed underneath the crust and then caused the Earth to expand like a concretion, like a trovant. And in the process, it deposited materials at certain times until it stopped growing, and then it basically, we like on the post expansion Earth look at it and say, well, radioactive decay is this rate. No matter how we look at it, we really don't see any variation, even though there's papers that disprove that, where that show radioactive decay is dependent on the seasons, let alone whether or not the Earth is undergoing basically its own radioactive decay. So it underwent rapid, extensive radioactive decay, painting a picture of a lot of time passing, and then it stopped so that once we started to use like radiometric dating, they're like, huh, look at that. Earth is billions of years old, like based on the current rate of decay, not accounting for that there was this time when the Earth was expanding and layers were being deposited. Okay, I've been watching a bunch of these. Pardon me, guys.
In this video.
Also, this. What's up, Jimmy? I'm like, Jimmy. I'm sorry, Jimmy. I feel bad. I'm sorry, Jimmy. I should show the rest. I'm just gonna show it. I'm not gonna read it. I feel bad, but it's just true. No one's accounting for the Earth expansion. You want to know where Atlantis was? That's kind of goes back to what we were just talking about with the yeah, the Canadian Shield, very flat and near sea level. So this region, very flat near sea level. You mean like it was really thin crust? Like, kind of like this is relative to this? So like if a current flowed around it, maybe it did get wet. And maybe by getting wet, it did solidify and begin to just fill the region beneath the crust and essentially push it up there, not over where Atlantis was, over at Flemish Cap, but over here, pushing up this region. But it was still the Canadian Shield. Maybe was the ocean, at least an ocean or a portion of the ocean was generally here. Maybe it went across through here somehow. Granite intrusions tend to then have a boundary area of granite mixed with metamorphic rocks, then with large region of metamorphic rocks. In the Wyoming province, there's a mix of batholiths of granite and then terrains of metamorphics. Bighorn Mountains, about half of it is metamorphic on the south and southern end of it. The northern end is dominated by granite. Wind River's mountains, two major plutons, so it's almost like two protons, not just one in that, or like whatever you want to call it, because it's kind of the same thing across scales. Fuck. Batholith appear uniform, composed of multiple masses, bodies of irregular shapes that can be distinguished from adjacent igneous rock by either age. This is from Wikipedia, just on what batholiths are generally, because I was like, maybe that is important for things I'm thinking to really like tap into, like this. Texture, and then mappable structures. Considered to form by ascent of relatively buoyant magma in plutonic diapers. So basically, there's got to be an explanation for how they rised, but like stars in a galaxy. Hey, dashing through the snow on a one-horse open sleigh. Stars in a galaxy. You know what I'm getting at? Like just the fluctuation above and below. The what's the people who are more like focused maybe have given more attention to the 26,000 year cycle of the precession, the equinox, maybe precession of the equinox animation. Oh. Yeah. That general concept, maybe not how described in anything there. I don't know. I'm not gonna watch right now. Not like they fucking watch a shit or that I say. Boom. To be disregarded over and 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 over. Disregard me. Okay. Idaho batholith formed around 100 million years. West to east, decrease in age. So it started forming in the west and decreased in age to the east. Something around here to this way. So it formed around 100 million years, decreasing in age this way. Crust cracked and slid off an exposed batholith. I don't know. That's just what in the video I was watching, what they mentioned. Okay. This video is 26 minutes. I think I'm just going to wait for my parents to go to bed before I record the next one. Love you guys. Because this Baja account we're about to enter, Baja BC. Oh my god. Controversy. Not overcorrect. Controversy. Controversy in geology amongst geologists. It's just evident that there's some like breakthrough meeting resistance of the present paradigm. Where basically people who are like not paying attention to the particular details of the controversy have just concluded, previous to really inspecting it with earnest consideration, that it was just simply too ridiculous. And by that assumption, have just resisted that which is. Because the evidence seems pretty much like, yeah, dude, what are you guys doing? It's all this resistance. Maybe there's not all the details, but it seems like it really needs additional details. Like, it's kind of like the Earth expanding process. I don't. Maybe we can, before I go into things that I've been finding things. First of all, like what's going on with this, where they're literally saying that's just a little that this region down here, I believe here, especially here, and maybe also like this region, but this region basically contributed and to this region and is this region. Like it moved from all the way out down here all the way up here. And the evidence is so solid. It's just too ridiculous of a just like at first glance for geologists to like allow it to just be the like predominant interpretation, because it just opens a can of worms. Like it really shows there's a lot of things where you are missing, first of all, that are not accounted for in what we've been doing, and maybe mistakes have been made. But there's things about it that are not like explained fully by the interpretation that kind of like lend the traditional more just like, well, it's here, so it must have, like, there's basically what's going on is there was a batholith, one of that formed in a long like single unit down to here and then down through here, probably down through here, I'd imagine. I don't know if this probably isn't that important to the interpretation, so it doesn't get much attention. Like it's just past where I'm not sure if this was shown as a batholith, but it seems like it must at least approach it or have features of like it becoming like metamorphic but batholithic, maybe. I don't know, something like that. But so like there's an arch that formed, arc maybe, of a batholith that broke apart in pieces, and the question is how exactly what happened. Like there's a batholith up here. How did it get there? People are saying like the closest place is kind of like around here, I believe. So it probably just came like boom, and they're basically saying the shortest possible distance. Like this is too like what are you talking about up here? Like how did it do that? It would have had to like go up here and then somehow like go over here. Like that doesn't make sense. Like why wouldn't it, like even if it did that, it would just go like this way, or maybe it would just go even if it went up this way, because they're basically suggesting it slides across here like on a railroad track, and then off of the track, and then up the coast, and then lodges in place. And it's a little like how, just from a simple like, how does that happen? Kind of looking at it, like, what do you mean? It doesn't really make sense. But the thing is that the evidence is based on the magnetic alignments that really show it was down here. Like, it couldn't have been up here just based on its magnetism, on its, like, dependent on how the angle is in terms of what latitude. Parallels, meridians. Okay, parallels are latitudes. Okay, latitude. It couldn't have formed at this latitude based on its paleomagnetics. It must have formed at a lower magnitude or latitude. And down here is where people are saying it formed, and it like just placing it here. But this like when we like incorporate that Papua New Guinea was right there, and this was right there, and the Philippines were right there, and then Australia was like behind that here, then it really provides a physical resistance for the like for the block of batholith to have like gone generally like out maybe through here, and then like between as they separated, and then just like straight into this, because there's generally a current coming out here and going this way, and like going this way generally to about this boundary in terms of the magnetic anomaly map. So for sure, this is about like the Baja BC interpretation that I'm finding is a controversial and not. It's pretty much been discredited in geology. Geology has written this off. There's like rogue geologists, if you will, people who are talking about it. Maybe I'm not aware of the like sheer extent of like controversy that still exists, but it seems like it's basically become just like, it's too ridiculous. It's too ridiculous. It's too ridiculous. Essentially like this, going up like that. So it had to move 3,000 kilometers, or it could have moved, I think, like the minimal they were saying in the alternative let's see what we. Maybe let's just read this as quickly as possible. Based on lithology, fossils, and paleomagnetism, many geologists have come to believe that much of North America, west of the Rocky Mountains, most of China, and parts of Australia, New Zealand, South America, and other Pacific Rim countries are made up of accreted or exotic terrains. So pretty much the boundaries of the Pacific. Which makes sense. And like if there's like a vortex there of just like eddying current that's breaking apart the region, especially this region here, like all of this, just breaking it apart, that it would take those chunks and fling them like in places along the way around, and I don't, maybe not evenly distributed, but like in a manner where this happens. More than 50 allochthonous rock masses displace considerable distances by tectonic forces, or less considerable distances during the Earth's expansion process prior to rapid expansion, when the Earth began to fill in at basically the boundaries between the newly formed continents, because it was a single landmass, and then the currents flowed around the Earth in basically a fanning out current and then a focused current that then wrapped around the Earth and collided and started just and that occurred around where we're talking about in this region here, which then went out this current flowing this way went this way in part up here and started to just open the Pacific, which was actually at the time it was happening over here. Going up this way and then hitting resistance and bouncing off, basically. Pretty much pushing right up to this corner where Hawaii was forming as a sphere, by the way. Before, oh my god, the things about Baja BC. Oh, so many connections. Oh my god, the timing, like there's timings that are like, and then the currents just stopped at this 85 million years. And oddly, this sphere that had currents holding it in place up here started to roll, and then 82 million years, a part of it is displaced onto the surface, left behind as it's rolling as a seamount, and then it just continues to do that. While being pinched in the currents, like the currents that are meeting are still like partly influencing it. It's just they're shutting off like a hose that's like the valve will shut off, but the hose is still going, and so it starts to kind of die off. And so the physical island of Hawaii, which was formed as a sphere, is held between these currents at like an exact 180 angle, because there's two currents flowing from the mantle puncture hole, one that fans out westward and one that focused eastward, and then the fanning out westward one goes this way, this way, this way, but then it collides with the eastward propagating one at a point where Hawaii is formed, which I believe is up here, right here. It's forming. It's just like sitting there forming. It may not have been forming there the whole time. It may have been moving around based on where the current balance was. But like at some point, it really started to get just like set in place here. Because the reason I say it might have been moving around is because it looks like it was up here, went through here. I feel like it might have started forming over here and then rolled up through this region, like physically up through here, across here to like here, and then down this way, and then here, like as the current balances, like one got overwhelmed, but the particle was at the like interface between them, so it moved with their like balancing motion, so it moved up this way as well. And then it just maybe broke free. Because there's this current is actually going this way in part, and then wrapping around here, going this way, going this way, going this way, going this way. So maybe when it comes back, it's colliding instead with this current going back this way. Like these two currents are colliding at a focal point. Not sure. Something's going on with Hawaii in there, though. It's so hard to figure out what's going on with Hawaii. But Baja BC has so many like insights. Like they're oh yeah. I was thinking about ending. I've read like a sentence. I can't. There's no way I can possibly read this article without commenting like I just was. So I'll do my best though. Let's go back. More than 50 of these terrains that are displaced from the Philippines and other islands in Southeast Asia probably are postulated for Western North America, including practically all of Alaska. This is an issue for figuring out how the Earth expanded, because if it was like from elsewhere and accounting for it when it didn't really yet exist and got kind of wedged up there maybe and took the shape of the currents still in a way where it maybe it had more of a boundary here initially. Not sure where it would have came from. It's saying 2, 3. Let's just real quick see what these are called. Let's see. There's no way this is... Okay. An origin for the linear magnetic anomalies on Mars. Oh, Mars. Whoa. And they're referencing that paper. Interesting. Almost have to click it. Almost have to click it. The proposed existence of magnetic lineations in the Terra Semiria. Let's see. Terra, there it is. I'm not sure. Terra. That must be the South Pole. 70, 60, 80, 90. Made us know what the children know. Must have been so Where's this one? There it is. Okay, whatever. Let's see. It was initially explained by Earth-like seafloor spreading. Here we argue instead that these lineations could have been formed at a convergent plate margin through collision and accretion of terrains. Similar process produced banded magnetic anomalies similar in geometry and even in size to those in Earth's North American cordillera. Because only sparse and generally weak anomalies have been detected in the Martian northern lowlands, which could constitute an analog to the terrestrial oceanic crust. It is possible that the magnetic field stopped its activity while crustal recycling was still active in Mars. Possible that the magnetic field stopped. Yeah. Yeah. Similar in size. It's almost like saying, like, if Earth becomes Mars, pardon me. If Earth's future is Mars, its past was Venus, its infancy was Mercury. Its supernovaed when it was Mercury. Became Venus. Caused what was Venus to become Earth. Caused what was Earth to become Mars. And in the process, along the way, it changed its radius and all sorts of things. Changed all sorts of things so that it actually fit. And maybe its future actually is Mars precisely. In a way where that region, that would be so crazy, of that paper that I was just looking at here actually is, or the Mars one I was just looking at actually is the future, like, of one of, like the Philippines or something of that nature. That would be crazy. Or like the Juan de Fuca plate region. I don't know. Some remnant of the Earth that still is part of what makes up Mars, in the same way that the Earth expansion process has just like its original crust, but it's changed substantially. No, we ain't gonna take it. These terrains are thought to be made up of fragments of continental and ocean crust which originated elsewhere and were transported. Fragments of continental and ocean crust. Okay. So these fragments of continental crust would be like, basically there's a current. So maybe not this one. Let's go to this one. There's a current coming generally out this way, and out this way too, but as it hits another current's resistance, it bends this way, and in so doing it takes chunks. So basically it brings the current itself, which is oceanic, it's just basic, it's basalt, it's just like the flow from the mantle that has yet to substantially differentiate. So it's more just like a large igneous province, oceanic crust, like a basalt, And then within that basalt, it physically takes these chunks of these larger segments of continental crust that then ride the wave. Maybe it even lifted it, like it physically had like overcurrents of basalt here flowing atop this region to just kind of make it so that the current could lift it over top it and slide it atop it by having like enough heat. Heat pretty much acts as a lubricant to allow for sliding to occur with enough heat. It's like, because it's essentially composed of very subtle particles that are just so subtle that they're like no friction. So with enough frictionless particles, it allows for this like sliding along it, because it has just had like magma. Maybe. I don't know if I don't know anything about this Baja California region in terms of geological makeup. But so it's bringing these chunks with it that the current, especially here, the current flows in here, just takes chunks of this region apart and brings them out. Also, I noticed maybe there is a current flow between these, like over from here, like maybe comes in here, goes up here, goes this way, and instead cuts across here and kind of goes in here. And maybe drains out here. And then goes like this. And also up this way. And maybe just generally causes, with enough separation, a current to be able to flow this way. Of, like, with space for chunks to flow through it, basically. Like, if the gate is closed, the chunks can't flow through, but once the gate opens, the chunks just flow through. And then up here, there's two currents, one current coming down this way, and then a second current going up this way that physically overlap in this region, so it transports the chunks over, and like the cross current helps assist in lodging them over here, because it's basically pushing them this way then, so the collective force on the is it generally the eastward, which maybe is actually in the geological record to a degree, with some things that like tend the more traditional view to be accepted of, no, it's not, these chunks in Baja, or these chunks in British Columbia are not from Baja, California. No, that's too far. They were from here. There's no way. Like, they had to be from here to go to here. Like, there's no way they went out here and up this way. That doesn't make sense. So we can't accept it, even though the magnetism shows it formed down here. It's really that simple in some cases. Like, an issue of this nature, like controversy, controversy. Not really though. It's just you're not willing to accept the evidence. It's not a controversy. It's a matter of fact. It is from there. Sometimes it is like that, though, where it doesn't take more than, like, just a tidbit. Just a tidbit. Oh. Alright then. I don't know how, but we just gotta figure out how. If we can say reliably it's from there, but how, we don't know. Let's figure it out. Instead of being like, that doesn't fit with what I believe. Okay. Let's keep going. I'll stop soon though. I won't get into the details that I wrote down and wanted to talk about until my next video. These terrains are thought to be made up of fragments of, okay, yeah, which originated elsewhere, yep, and were transported, rotated, yep. If we watched lava flows, lava flows, lava flows, like this kind, where the ones where they carry chunks, they gotta carry chunks. Let's see, maybe that one. Yes, hello. Yes, yes, hello. Oh my god. That's pretty much what's going on underground in places. There's a current that's generally focusing to a point, and then above it is the crust, and then that current splashes up into the crust. Boom. Boom. Volcano eruption. Sometimes that's how they happen. In terms of like mounts, this one happened like that, I believe, because sorry, Dad. Fuck. Because essentially there was a current coming this way, hit the boundary. There's pretty much a boundary, a hard boundary of this like width, where it starts to have a more like dense wall that it just splashes against and goes up along. That didn't have a current like I was looking for. It would be nice to just see a good current. Like that. These chunks. Like imagine these are bits of the Philippines and nearby islands that are just getting transported by this current that basically cut off the chunk and then brought it with it. God. It's so cool and frightening. It's probably hot. It's probably not so cool. It's probably hot. Like there's a chunk, and like sometimes it gets cycled down into, but other times it physically, especially when the chunk is big enough, it physically stays atop the current, so it just doesn't fall down in the way that some of this just gets cycled down into it, so it's not really staying as these chunks that they form as. So these are kind of radioactive, let's say. They don't last for long periods of time. They get churned, become like this more subtle system again that doesn't have these huge chunks. What a wow, it's just flat topped. There's a mound in here that's just gone. There it is. And then it cools off. That's good enough. Sometimes there's definitely better ones. Like if I go to my clips, let's go to my clips. We can at least watch this one. Like this. Maybe even let's watch the whole video. They probably got a. This one had some good lava flows. Very, and like that. Oh my god. That's crazy. Let's go back a little. Current bringing, this is more dense, that one. That one was kind of reminiscent of underneath North America where it's like solidified. It's become more like broken chunks, breccia type. Even within the current itself here, at least here. But like this current is struggling through here. It probably has regions where it's flowing more like this, more laminar, more fluid, less resistance. I don't know if laminar is precisely tied to this. This is very laminar. Very. Like that could happen. This, like that, that. This kind of thing, there's this current that's physically severing. Like because it's colliding with an adjacent current, it's basically sawing this region apart along this whole boundary, just sawing the two segments of continent apart with a current that then physically starts to flow between them like this and just takes chunks and begins to move them. But with enough flow to actually move them. Where that one was kind of just sitting there. Like the current, just like sheer, the current was enough to move them, basically. The force, the pressures exerted. I was gonna stop in an hour. It's just so cool. Let's see what's going on there. Oh, that had some transported systems back there. Riding the waves. Oh, they're bubbles. Oh, that was. Oh, they just formed as bubbles. Oh my god, and then they solidify, and then it just has a shell to physically be capable of forming a rock out of a bubble that just gets filled with magma over time, and so like creates more of a. Like it's possible that that kind of thing could be going on in some places. There's just like a bubbling up that then forms a boundary that then the bubble has like a hotter bound, like it's still hot down there, so current flows through where the top is cooled off enough to form a shell, so it's like a cup that then the mantle material can get like filled in. That's pretty much what happened to the Earth. Like It was at a certain elevation, and then underneath the crust, a current of mantle flowed that physically uplifted the crust, and then it swelled out the sides and filled in the boundaries between the crust on a sphere. But still, it bubbled it up until the boundaries were separated, and then it just like... And then it like comes out the side in this like lobe type of way that just filled in. Oh my god. So, I look forward to some more Baja California or Baja BC discussion in the near future. See y'all soon. Peace out.